Welcome to Straight from the Muzzle, folks, where we are anything but straight. My name is Space,
And I'm Bean.
and we welcome you to our episode, which is about what today?
Today we are talking about, we are talking about the future of fur cons, which is a big topic for this year. I feel like on Twitter, I've been seeing a lot of talk about furry cons and what's going on, what's going to be happening this year, next year, what new cons are coming up. And there's just a lot of talk going on about conventions right now because, it's spring. It's officially spring. Last weekend was the first day of spring, and spring is con season. Spring and summer both.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yep.
And vaccines are rolling out, and that's giving a lot of optimism for everyone. And everything kind of started to look really good, but then everything has started to kind of go back downhill, and we'll go down that hill in a little bit. When we go into our topics here. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to mess up. I was literally thinking when I first started that welcoming, I was thinking for media at first. I'm like, don't say for media. And then I'm like, do I say show? Do I say episode? What do I say? I don't know why I always flip out. I should be used to this by now.
It has been a while since we've changed names, and yet sometimes even in my brain, I'm like,
So what we've done is we've broken down this episode into looks like 5 categories. So we have the present, the future, coming back with a bang, ideas, and support.
Mm-hmm.
There's more to those actual titles. I just felt like saying it short like that. So our first one, the present. Is it safe for cons to open in 2021? Your opinion?
Yeah, there's 2 sides to this. As always, there's opinion, and then there's like fact to back up. The many sides of that question. Is it safe for cons to open up in 2021? And the first thing we want to look at are just COVID statistics. Furry stuff aside, how is specifically America doing right now with COVID? And as Space mentioned earlier, some vaccines have been released. I was able to get vaccinated. I got, was it Pfizer? Is that how it's pronounced?
Pfizer.
Pfizer? Just Pfizer?
Yeah. Just Pfizer.
I got Pfizer. I got my first shot a couple of weeks ago, and I'm getting my second one on Tuesday. So I should be fully vaccinated by Tuesday, which is very exciting. I finally got access to it as an educator. And now I think even people who are 16 years and older are able to get it. So
I'm surprised you weren't able to get to it before, because in Utah, well, I guess each state is different. In Utah, they kind of changed the factors a little bit, but if you were in some sort of like pre-diagnosed like medical condition, so instance like or diabetes, so you're diabetic, you would have been able to get the shot.
Yeah, on the vaccine website for Georgia, there were only like 6 different categories in which you could be vaccinated, and diabetes was not on there. And
that's a shocker.
Pissed me off. Diabetes and even and teachers. It took forever for teachers to be eligible to get vaccinated, which is a shame because, medical professionals got the first round, which is understandable.
Right.
But when you think about medical professionals, they get to take people's temperature before they come in. They get to have COVID tests for their patients when they come in. Educators, our students come in regardless. It doesn't matter what their temperature is. It doesn't matter if they're sick. It doesn't matter if they're wearing their mask properly or not. We have to teach them. And for it to have taken that long for teachers to get the vaccine really made me mad.
Yeah, there's been a lot of he said, they said, she said, all this like stuff as to like who got it, when they got it. And I just kind of wish there was a better plan when all the vaccines kind of rolled out. Unfortunately, there wasn't one.
Yeah.
But I posted a tweet. You would have seen a lot of tweets over. Now, when this comes out, this episode will be coming out on April 2nd. So you would have seen a lot of tweets over the weekend of March 26th, 27th, 28th. I posted something saying, should furry conventions move forward with plans in 2021 or wait until next year? And I placed it as a poll. And I wanted to see if you guys thought it was safe enough to do something like that. Now, I only put yes and no. I didn't put based on location or anything of that matter. Um, so I will reveal those statistics in just a moment. Right now, what we're going to do is go over COVID stats real quick. So before, like I want to say like back in January, February, numbers were looking kind of bleak. But then as I guess vaccines started to roll out, number of hospitalizations started to go back down. COVID, um, I guess cases started to go back down, which was really good. And that was a really good sign. And then things started to plateau. And as I started to do research, that's not a good thing because that's where things get a little bit tricky because they don't know what's going on. As things started plateauing, variants started popping up.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking like variants from everywhere. We're talking variants from the United Kingdom, variants from, well, things that travel from South or from Africa. And Africa has like just like crap loads of like diseases that come from the Congo. And there's tons of things there that just are really like unexplainable and not discovered yet, but one of those kind of just popped up and then traveled around and they found it in the UK and then somehow made it to the United States. And then another one grew. It was like homegrown in New York City. Not that someone did it, it just kind of like
It just happens.
it just happened. And then more popped up and more are popping up more and more and more. And so these vaccines that were created, they were more or less created to tackle the most common COVID and then maybe one or two of these variants, but they're not meant for these other ones that are coming up. So Pfizer is actually working on a booster vaccine to kind of take on some of these other variants. So everything's looking kind of good with this plateau. And then things kind of looked like they were starting to go back down again. And that's when morale started going up and things like mandates are starting to be lifted. Um, More vaccines are starting to be distributed. Distributed. I said that weird. Distributed.
Yes, I think so. That's how
Okay,
you
that's
pronounce it.
that's okay. I don't know why I said it like that. Things are starting to look really, really good. But the one thing that wasn't going down was the death rate. The death rate still, oddly enough, was going up. And then out of nowhere, cases were going back up. And then not the United Kingdom, but Europe or Italy now went through their third wave. And then I believe Europe is going through their third wave. And the United States is now starting to see their cases starting to go back up again. And we're starting to go back up. And now we're seeing this trend of like, I'm not shocked by it, but we're seeing this trend of COVID cases going back up. And it's almost as if the world has not learned from their lesson.
No.
Am I? It's like we we're like kids. The whole world is like a giant child. Okay, you get hurt, you run around, you fall, you get hurt, you get back up, you put a band-aid on, you run around, you fall, you get hurt, you put a band-aid, and you just continuously do it over and over again. But you don't learn from your mistake. You just continue to do it, and I feel like that's what's going on. We're constantly doing this over and over and over again. And it's almost hilarious to watch it because it's like, if we keep doing this, we're not going to get any better. And so, with that being said, is it safe to hold a convention right now? In my opinion, no.
No. Based
No.
on my opinion and based on the statistics in America, no.
No.
Now, in other places, the only two I can think of are, I think, New Zealand
Yeah, New
and
Zealand.
Australia. They are the
Yeah,
only two places that have like killed COVID.
they're doing amazing with it.
And so
So,
I think furry conventions in Australia are planning on going, but they're for Australians only. Like you can't travel and go to them.
yeah.
I think they're only letting those who are have Australian citizenship to go to this convention. And that's something else about America. And I've known a couple of people, unfortunately, who are traveling during COVID outside of the country. And other countries require a negative COVID test for you to enter. America does not.
I
So
don't
let's say
understand that.
you leave the country to visit whoever, and that country requires you to have a negative COVID test to go. Cool. But then let's say you don't take a COVID test while you're there before you come home, and you catch it while you're there and you bring it here. That happened to somebody I know. They traveled somewhere with a negative test, caught COVID there, and came home with it and brought it back to the United States. So that's how this shit happens. So don't fucking do that.
So that's how, and so the United States, although everyone likes to think, I don't know why people think that United States is like, right now, there are other countries that are doing way better than the United States as far as like COVID goes. And I
In
think as
healthcare
far
in
as like
general.
healthcare and just in like, I want to say almost like politics and everything else right now, everyone else is kind of doing better right now. The US right now is kind of struggling, and we know it, and we wish it would change, but it's really kind of not. So there's that. we're kind of stuck with it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
So for furry conventions, try and be a present thing in 2021 in the United States specifically right now. In my
it's
opinion,
not
is
a
a
good
bad
idea.
idea. And according to the opinion of those who took our poll, most people said it was also a bad idea.
Yeah, about 9 point. So there were 51 votes. 9.8% of those votes said yes, it's 100% safe. But 90.2% of those votes said no, wait until next year.
Mm-hmm.
And then there were, I believe, comments on that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and just read those comments. I did want to put out there when going to conventions, just kind of keep this in mind, the 6-2-1 rule, specifically the 6 hours of sleep, 2 meals a day, 1 shower a day. Okay. I want to say that not all furries, but like a good portion of furries aren't the most hygienic.
Not at
So,
cons.
not at cons, no. Usually, people that go to cons are like kids that are getting away from their parents and don't have to do anything. It's rule free for the weekend. Okay. And so most people are like, I'm going to spray it up with Old Spice and deodorant, and I'm good. No. So take that kind of like thought and then go to a con with COVID right now. And you're looking at a ticking time bomb of a giant COVID spreader of disaster. It's just not a good idea.
Mm-mm. And some people are like, well, fursuits are like intense masks. No, there's still a hole you're breathing out of. Also, you are sweating, and that is a bodily fluid that can transmit different grossness. And like, while you like to think like fursuit hugs are so fun, yay, a lot of times I've went to hug a fursuiter and I've come back wet because they're
Yeah,
either not wearing the proper Under Armour, or maybe they're just an overly sweaty person and they can't help it. It's not something to be necessarily ashamed of, but in this particular situation, not a good idea.
right.
Like, a fursuit does not protect you from COVID.
No,
That is a
it
dumb
absor- it
statement. I'm
it,
tired
it
of hearing it.
absorbs it.
Yeah, it just absorbs it.
It just absorbs it. You're actually like a magnet, and you're absorbing it, and then other people are coming to you. If anything, you're spreading it. So a couple of people have said a few things. So Renaku says this would really depend on a lot of factors, like who or how many people would attend, how would social distancing measures be maintained, among other things. But yeah, I'd go. I've been going to school and I haven't gotten sick yet, but knocking on wood on that one. So someone's willing to risk it. I'm not saying for the individual you shouldn't go. This is purely our opinion, not the opinion of the podcast
Yeah.
itself. So everyone can have their own opinion here.
My only thing about that statement is that school and COVID and conventions and COVID are very different, because
Yeah.
at school, you're like, whether you know it or not, I only know this because I'm a teacher, you're being tracked. Anytime you go to the restroom, you go to the office, you're going to a different place that isn't your normal schedule. Your teacher notes it down on a roster. We legally have to, so that if you catch COVID or if somebody in your class catches COVID, we can tell you exactly if you've been at risk of being in contact with that person. And we wipe down desks in between classes. You have hand sanitizer. You're required to wear a mask, etc. At a convention,
You're
nobody's wiping
not.
down tables behind you. You are not being tracked. You are not having a roster to follow. You know what I mean? So it's very different.
Pink Lemonade said, as much as I'd love for it to happen, I doubt it will just because there's simply too much at risk. Although virtual cons are still fun. There's a lot of virtual cons happening right
I've
now.
never been to one.
I've never been to one either, and I've actually suggested that we should attend one and maybe
Hmm.
do a panel, like do a
Yeah.
live, like a live podcast. Which, if you guys would be interested in having us do that, let us know. I'm researching that at the moment. Spaghetti Noodle says depends on where you are, Europe and or the UK. Hell no, Australia, sure. Our cases are under control and outbreaks are kind of kept on top of, which is good. Um, Lurie or Lurie, I'm not sure how that
Oh, they're a
one's.
customer of mine. They're from
They
Australia.
Oh, nice. They said, I need a third option. Depends on the country and their COVID rates. Australia is going ahead with the cap on con attendees. We have no local cases. And then that's pretty much it. So
Hmm.
it's pretty straightforward with that
Yeah.
particular poll. Which brings us to our third point with the present. Is it worth it?
So, like, one of those commenters said, where they said it depends how many people can attend, what safety measures are being put in place. So, let's say a convention does happen in America in 2021 with safety measures put in place. At that point, is it worth it? Is it worth having to stand 6 feet apart in line and having to span across half the con space to get your badge? Is it worth not being able to go to the dance comp because they have to cap off the capacity at like what 200 people in a bigger room instead
Yeah,
of your typical 500 plus? Is it worth having to wear a mask under your fursuit when you're already sweating? Is it worth it? Like, would the con be fun at that point? I remember when Space and I, in 2020, we were planning on going to FWA, and when they canceled, I called him and I was like, hey, FWA just canceled. If they, just reschedule, would it still be fun with all these safety measures put in place? And we agreed that even if they rescheduled
we
and
wouldn't
not
go.
just, canceled it, that we weren't going to go because it was not going to be fun at that point.
No, it just wasn't worth it. Like, I mean, and think about it too. Like, if if cons open now, like especially in the United States or in Europe, think about it. Like, would they have to put a cap on how many people come? And then what about like panels and stuff? You only have so many people in a room. And then, I mean, the whole point of a convention is to socialize and mingle, but fursuits would have to be once again 6 feet apart, and then so with the other people. And your whole point is to be together, to hug, to have fun, to sit in the hallway and sketch together. You wouldn't even be able to do that. You would be It would be the most like anti fun con out there. It would
Yeah.
be the opposite of what you would want to do.
And imagine how long it would take for you to even go into the artist alley or the dealer's
Oh
den.
yeah.
You'd be standing in line for forever to go in. Like, and to be in there, only certain people, there's only one person. Essentially, if you follow the 6 foot rule, maybe 1 to 2 people could look at a booth at a time.
Oh,
Imagine
and
how
don't even
slow sales would be for artists.
imagine the elevator line.
The elevator. Yeah, elevators. My
Oh,
God. Elevators
I'd
alone.
rather
That's a
take the
good
stairs at
point.
that point. I
Yeah,
think I
if
would
you can
lose
only
weight at
have
that
two or
con.
three people in an elevator at once, elevators are not big, y'all.
You
If
would
you're
have to
standing,
have you'd have to have sanitizer at pretty much everywhere. You need to have water everywhere. Good circulation of air would be a I mean, hopefully the con space would have that, but you need to like have a guarantee of that particular measure. You would need to have almost like a signature, a waiver, sign saying
yeah.
if you're going to this con, we take no responsibility of whatsoever of you catching COVID and we can't be held responsible. Would you want to sign something like that going to a con, knowing that you could get infected and there's nothing this con will do if you get sick?
Hmm.
Like, just think about all of those different types of things. It just doesn't seem like a fun thing to do. It's just,
No.
no, it's not worth it. We've already gone this long as it is with all these canceled events. We can go another year. It's not a big deal at this point. We're already used to it. We can keep going.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
fine. We're all like mentally unstable as it is, and we're all like emotionally just like effed up, right? But we can keep going. We're okay with that. It sucks, but it's what needs to be done. Now there's online cons, right? We can do that. But for the time being, I think we should wait. Now, I did ask, because this is a very controversial topic, should furry conventions require attendees to be vaccinated? I did not put a poll on this. I should have, but I didn't. And we had about, I think, well, we had a
17.
yeah, we had 17 comments, a buttload of responses. A lot of people said no because it's not because of laws. People said yes. People brought up HIPAA. Keep in mind that HIPAA only applies to the United States and not anywhere else in the world. And then there are, just because HIPAA does protect health information of the person and somewhere else, there are ways around HIPAA, especially when it comes to conventions and things of that matter. So unless you know your HIPAA laws very well, I wouldn't really
Yeah.
fight that as much. But it's very mixed. Some people say yes, and then some people say no.
I
So
feel like what I saw in the responses and from people I've talked to, most people say yes, and instead of saying hard no's, the people who are on the maybe not side aren't saying no because they think it's immoral to show proof of vaccination. They're saying no because they are unsure of how the law would allow that to
yeah,
happen.
exactly.
So it seems like furries are mostly in the yes, you should be required to be vaccinated side of things, but it's tough with the whole legal aspects of, how can you even ask for that information? You know what I mean?
And then keep in mind, as we all know, when it comes to vaccines are not 100% foolproof. You can
Yeah.
still get sick with them.
Hmm.
So even if you are vaccinated, even if all your attendees are vaccinated, you probably could still get sick. So there's just still that. So even if you did require it, there's still a chance that you could still get the COVID or Croncud. Or what was
Yeah.
it? No, Croncud? Concrud. That's what I meant.
Concrud.
Thank you. Thanks.
Oh man. So let's talk about the future of furry conventions. Now you said,
Yes.
we have one more, we can wait another year, and that's something to think about because even though some of the stats are going up and down and all of that, the vaccine is becoming more and more available. It was only a couple weeks ago when it was still a small list of people that could take the vaccine. And now anybody over 16, at least in where I live, can now get the vaccine. And that's a huge jump in a short amount of time. So at this rate, it is a possibility for the United States to be much safer in 2022 to the point where we can have cons. If that happens, what would post COVID fur cons look like? Would there still be some safety measures put in place? How would cons keep their attendees safe? Would these safety measures make prices more expensive? Things like that. These are things to think about.
Now, I wouldn't mind if there were additional safety measures put in place, and I wouldn't mind paying a little bit more because I
No,
would rather pay more to know that safety is being, I guess, put in
considered.
place.
Yeah.
Yeah, my
For
safety is being considered. I would pay extra for that.
Yeah, like I would not mind paying like 5 or 10 extra bucks on my ticket cost for more hand sanitizer stations, for more water stations with disposable cups, for when you get a little goodie bag at cons. FWA is always really good about giving you free stuff when you buy a badge, like a poster.
Hmm.
But pay an artist like Artcore or Stabler Cake to donate some masks, or not even donate, to the con would pay them to stock these really cool looking furry masks to go with your ticket, and then
That would
people
be
will be more
awesome.
encouraged to wear them because they look cool and they're furry related. Those masks with like the animal faces on them.
Yeah, that would
Yeah,
be awesome.
like
They could be even like
having
they could be themed too, so it's specific to the
Yeah,
con.
so it's specific, like just things like that. So even if it's post COVID, if we're still worried about a COVID world, those are some safety measures that could be put in place at the convention, and it would come at a small cost if it's a larger con. If $2 to $5 extra on a ticket, worth it for me to feel safer at a con.
Now, it's interesting. Here's the weird thing. So, even if we have all these safety measures in place at a con, I know that I'm not alone on this, and I bet there's a lot of other people out there So Felix and I went to a restaurant where they actually allowed full max capacity in there. And once I was inside that restaurant, my anxiety level skyrocketed because I've never been in a room where it's been a year since I've been in a room where there was so many people in there because
Mm-hmm.
I've been so used to having like there'd be a booth and then a space and then a booth and then a space, and that's how it was. It was just like semi empty. But I haven't been in a room where there was just everyone in there, and I felt so nervous even though I was vaccinated and he was. I just felt so nervous and like scared. So I wondered, like, going back to a con, will everyone be like almost alert or nervous or scared? I mean, you'll be excited, but like, will you also be kind of like worried by brushing shoulders? Like, oh my god, I just heard someone cough. Are they sick? Or someone just sneezed. Oh my god, do they have like these things that like we've kind of been almost programmed to think about? Will we have those worries when we're in public now and going to these conventions?
When will a cough stop sounding like a gunshot?
Yeah, exactly. And I kind of worry about that. Like, how do you? I don't know if you can go to a counselor to make that like go away, but it's almost instantaneous that that's how I kind of like react to it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, but I just do. I
And
just do.
it happens. And I think if it's a post-COVID convention, I think at that point, like if extra safety measures like masks and hand sanitizer are put in place, I wouldn't go to a con unless I felt it was 100% safe again. So that means like these are extra things that are there, but it's not required. So they'll give you a mask with your ticket, but you're not required to wear it. Or you 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 have the hand sanitizer stations around, but um, it's COVID isn't as much of a threat to the point where you are concerned about how many people are in a room. So it would be like it was before, where you can stand in line directly behind somebody and it wouldn't feel so bad. That is when I'm thinking post COVID cons. I wouldn't want to go to a convention if there is max capacity issues, because I feel like that's the main thing that would make a con unfun for me, is
Yeah.
having to limit how many people can be there, and that just making it less fun in general, because now so many people are missing out that could normally go. But
Yep.
then to just have to worry about, oh, I have to wait in line to go to the dealer's den because there's already 100 people in there, and that sucks. You know what I mean?
But the feature of a post FurCon, waiting for it, I totally think it's worth it.
Oh yes. So in the end, let's say we don't get a con until 2022 or even 2023. To me personally, it's worth the wait,
Yeah.
because I don't want to go to a convention when I feel scared, or when I have to wear a mask under my fursuit, or if I have to wait in line for 6 hours just to get my badge because we have to stand 6 feet apart and only so many people can go in a room at once. It's worth it going back to almost completely normal for me to wait another year or two. We
And
have
like
other opportunities to have fun as a fandom that aren't
yeah,
conventions.
like I get it. It sucks. It really does because you really want to meet like your friends that you've met and you haven't seen in years. But there's other ways you can see them. There's ways you can travel. There's safer ways to do this. You can do online. There's virtual reality now that's available. Most of my friends have virtual reality. I just don't want to shell out the money for it. So there's
Yeah,
that.
it's expensive.
So, but I know it just sucks. I know that it fully sucks, but it's definitely worth the wait. Plus, you never know. Couple years, who knows what a con will be like then? The
Yeah,
technology. Oh, can't imagine what will be available.
it's going to be amazing.
Amazing. So that brings us on to our next subject, coming back with a bang. What do you want to see with conventions coming back?
Yes, coming back with a bang. So when cons are able to come back from COVID, what are some fun things that not only we want to see, but what you guys want to see? There are some pretty high standards with conventions that have happened in the past, but there are always new ideas floating around. And we've made a few tweets the past couple weeks asking for some ideas that you guys have, and Space and I have some as well. But one just great thing that most conventions incorporate in a con is a theme. But here's what
Mm,
separates a good con from a great con, and that is actually incorporating the theme into the event. Because there are some conventions who will announce a theme, and sure, the social media page art for the convention will change, or the
rip.
poster,
That's what I want to say.
but what?
Rip. That's what
Rip.
I want to say. Rip. At conventions, rip for
Yeah.
themes, man.
Some conventions come up with a theme and they'll change their social media page and they'll have poster art that matches the theme, but then that's it. You go to the
Yep.
con and it's just a furry con. Sure, you might get a cool themed poster. Sure, the merch for that year might have some themed art, but
Might.
might.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I feel like themes kind of are ignored. But I know BLFC and FWA are two amazing conventions who go above and beyond with their
Oh yeah.
themes. And I think more conventions need to do that.
Invest in your freaking convention, for God's sakes. This is your convention. Come on, staff and con directors. You're wanting people to come. If you're going to set a theme, go all out for that theme.
Mm-hmm.
Make it fun for your guests. Make it worth it, right? So if you're going to do like a cybernetic fun kind of like theme, make it feel like you're going into a cyber world. BLFC does a really good job of it. In fact, they've actually done it to a point where every year it plays off of the last year's theme into the next theme. It's almost as if like it just keeps evolving into one thing to the next to the next. And it's super awesome because it makes you feel like you're a part of it over and over and over again. And it gets even more exciting because you makes you feel like what's going to be next for the next theme. And I just love it. And I want to keep going back more and more and more. But when I think of like Anthrocon or I think of like FC or a few of these other ones, you guys come up with your themes like luau or pirates. I'm just like, you guys suck. I'm sorry. Like, there's nothing exciting about it. You can make your web page kind of good looking. It's kind of looks like a school web page with maybe average artists that would have designed it, but it doesn't really look like anything. It looks kind of dilapidated, honestly. It doesn't really scream out, I'm an exciting con and I'm totally invested in my attendees. Nothing really screams out to me like
Mm-hmm.
that.
FWA had a pirate theme one year, and while that seems like a generic theme, like you go into Party City, you could have a pirate birthday,
Yeah,
they went so far out with it. Like they had a scavenger hunt so you could hunt for treasure. And
right
at the
on.
end of the con, you actually got amazing prizes like free attendees, free hotel room, art, merch, stuff like that. They had decorations everywhere around the con. Or
That's cool.
another one they had Game On was a theme one year, and they had literal like checkpoints around the con where they looked like little posts in a video game where if you die that's where you respawn. And places where you could take photos. Like they really care about their theme and they go all out for it.
I think one theme at BLFC there was like dystopia, and so they had
Mhm.
like chain link fences like erected around the
Yes.
artist alley, and they had like posters that were from the year prior, but they looked like they had been spray painted on with like graffiti. So they made it
That's so
look like
fun.
you were like in this kind of like dystopian feel of like this theme, and it was really cool. I just want to see that. Like if you're gonna be a really big, like obviously Anthrocon, you're successful, you're doing good, but you could be so much more if
Mhm.
you just invested in your attendees. Just go the extra mile, do something more exciting than just what you're already doing, or something. Or other cons out there, smaller cons, you could probably do it. Create something different that no other con is doing. You're small enough to do it. I know your funds may not be the biggest, but at least create something that makes people want to come back.
Mhm.
That's what you're trying to do.
Yes.
Create an
If you're
experience.
Yeah, if you're a new con, that's the best thing you could do is to create new experiences and to offer new things, and they don't even have to be expensive things.
No.
Utilize people who are donating their time to you. Ask, you can do contests so you can use art. I remember one year FWA had a poster contest, and even those who did not win had their art displayed around the con. Like
That's
I had
cool.
my art displayed around FWA one year in the game room. And that was so cool, and it was free for them. These people did not get paid to draw this art for them. They volunteered. And you can use that. There are so many different ways to utilize a theme and to go all out in a cheap way.
Yep. Now, other ways that conventions can come back with a bang is to have more events available within the con itself. Usually there's like a concert, and then there's like, I don't know, like talent shows, and there's panels here and there. But I think there should be more events going on. Um, I find that some of them are kind of just blah. I feel like there should be more going on in general. Like, we've come up with the idea of laser tag. That would be way fun. Now, I've actually thought about it. We would probably have to have some sort of waiver because, like, if someone got hurt, but it would be hella fun to have
Mm-hmm.
fursuit laser tag, and then of course fursuit and non fursuit laser tag as well. That would be so much fun to have. But a lot of different events. You could also schedule your convention around state fairs, or you could have them around resort areas. Resorts typically have more items available, like bigger pools. They actually have casinos or bowling alleys or
That's how
movie
BLFC does it,
theaters.
right?
Yeah, that's how they do it. And that's how it makes it so much more better because there's so much more things to do and it brings in more people. Try scheduling around maybe other events that might be happening around the city. Things like that, like concerts and whatnot, that'll bring people in too. It may not, I mean, things of that nature will help kind of boost more attendance in itself.
Mm-hmm. For sure. I
Yeah.
know some really unique examples I have seen at conventions, and that I've only seen a couple of times. I like to see them at other cons too. Escape rooms.
Oh,
There are go
yes.
karts. That's if you're at a resort. I know you can't just do that if you're a con on your own, but I have seen treasure hunts. I have seen online like mobile apps for conventions. Some cons go all out with the mobile app to make it where you can go around and scan hidden art.
That's cool.
Things like that. Silent disco. That's really cool and fun.
I've always wanted to go to a silent disco. I thought that would be really cool. I've actually created a silent disco in our living room now. So I have like a little Bluetooth receiver that I plug into the TV, and I've got these two cat ear like
Yeah,
headphones that
headphones.
light up, and they like flash different colors. And so now I can just like watch a movie if it's like, because I like to listen to like loud music and stuff. And if like Felix is sleeping, then I can't do that like 11 o'clock at night. So silent disco, but it's fun.
God, just silent disco. I just imagine. I watch a lot of reality TV, one of which is Hoarders. It's how I motivate myself to clean. And
Oh my god,
just so silent disco, silent hoarders.
that would be awesome. Silent hoarders.
Silent hoarders.
More panels would be fun too. Um, I
More
think
unique panels.
I think
Like,
more interactive panels would be
yeah,
better.
if I had a fucking penny for every time I've seen a meet and greet type panel. Yeah, there's so much more than that. A convention itself is a meet and greet.
Yeah.
Those are fine, but I feel like when I look at a convention like event list and all the panels, I feel like half of them are meet and greet, and it's like you're only gonna want to meet and greet so many people of certain genres.
And I'm not saying this to rip anyone who's not this type of person, but the best kind of person to lead a panel is that of someone who's outgoing and sociable. So
Yeah.
if you're that kind of person who is meant to socialize and be with people and kind of creates that environment, those are the people that should be running panels because those are the people that bring people in and interact and make the panels fun. The
Yes.
people that make the panels that kind of just sit there and they're monotone and they don't really make eye contact, and you're kind of sitting there thinking, huh, why am I wasting my time with this panel? Do I stand up and feel awkward or do I sit here? If you're sitting there and you're thinking that, ugh, like I cringe at those panels. And sometimes I do go to panels like that just to make notes so I can talk about it on a show. So I can kind of like be like, don't do this.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend, like, people out there. I think if you have an idea, great. But if you're not that kind of person, maybe not do it. Or have someone who knows how to do it with you, pair it with you. So that way you guys can do it together. I think panels with two people are better than one,
Oh, for sure.
honestly.
Yeah, it
For
gives you
sure.
somebody to bounce off of. I know a panel idea that Space and I had for FWA before everything got canceled and it got approved. Like, it
Yeah.
wasn't just an idea. We had it ready. It was approved. We were planning for it. It was a panel where we spent about an hour. It was a contest panel where people would go into groups and build a fursuit out of recycled materials. So, scrap fabric, cardboard, tape, glue, things like
Yep.
that. Just absolute shit materials, and to give them 45 minutes, because we'll need some time to explain how to do it and to set up the groups, about 45 minutes to try and make a fursuit partial out of garbage. And
Yep.
then we would have
Fashion
three
show.
judges: me, a fursuit maker; Space would be more like a spectator; and
Yep.
then we would have a guest on, which would probably be another fursuit maker. And whoever won would get some kind of prize, most likely like some fursuit paws or something like that.
Yeah.
And we had it approved and ready to go. And that is such a fun idea. And that is not an original idea of ours. I believe I heard it somewhere before. I don't remember where, but
It was inspired, and then I posted it in another group, and someone's like, "Whoa, we should do that too." And I'm like, "If you do it, let us know, and let us know if it was successful." So this, I want to see more of that. One idea, I actually posted this on Twitter not too long ago. I asked, what would be, a good activity or event to see at a FurCon, and someone said sketchbook trades. And so, what would be a really cool idea as a panel or as an event is to have everyone sit in a circle and then everyone has a sketchbook. Now, theirs was 18 plus, so I would recommend ours be like safe for work, so
yeah.
not NSFW. And what you do is you get your book, obviously put your name on it so everyone knows whose is whose, and then you pass it to the left and you draw something in their sketchbook. And then after a minute or two, you pass it to the left, kind of like speed dating. And you do that
Yes.
until your book gets all the way back to you. Then after that, you have like 30 pages worth of different art from different people. And each of those pages could have their online handles. So you can reach out to them later on at that con, and you've made 30 new friends. That would be so cool because
Mm-hmm.
it's 30 pages worth of free art
Yeah.
for one. Plus, I
It's
mean, if it was me at that panel too, I would write something in the book because I don't draw. So it would be something comical, I'm sure.
yeah, like and that's such a fun idea. I know I did something, and this wasn't a panel. It was just a group of people on For Affinity back when it was a dead place. And we made a group, and
Kind of
it was
still
yeah,
is.
and it was like a what's it called, white elephant, where
Yeah.
you draw. We drew a name online and made a badge for and the person in the group that we were assigned, and then we met up at the con, and we got to meet up with the person and exchange the badges, and it was so fun. And I got the cutest badge of Rocket. And you didn't have to be a good artist to do this either. There were artists of all skill levels in this group. It was very friendly, very fun, like things like that. And it goes to show that you can plan an event at a convention and it not be a panel or approved by the con. If you just want to get a group of 10 people together on a furry group online, then you can do that. Be like, meet on the 10th floor in this space at this time and we'll do a white elephant. How cool is that? It was so
Uh,
fun.
just because you said For Affinity, I just want to throw this out there. For Affinity, just because you revamped your website and you said you have new funding and a new sponsor or whatever, we all know it's the same person that you basically ran the website for the
It
past
is the
10
same
years.
person.
Don't try to sugarcoat it. Come on, we're not stupid. God, whatever. Come on. Who do you think we are?
And
Jeez.
the last thing that
Um,
I think would be good
yeah.
to discuss when it comes back around to like new things furry conventions could change up are artist alleys and dealers' dens. Now, artist alleys I might not touch as much because we.
Touch them. Sensually
Oh.
touch them.
So when it comes to an artist alley, from the cons I've experienced, what an artist alley is um it's a room where if you get in line early enough in the day and you bring your art supplies, you can set up a table for free and sell your art. But it's first come, first serve. If you want power or an outlet, you do have to pay, but it's still first come, first serve. Now, that's different from a dealer's den because a dealer's den, you have to be pre approved and you can sell physical items, you have more space, things like that. So, artist alleys, I wouldn't change that much. I like the idea of giving artists an opportunity to make some money on their own time. So let's say you want to make some money at a con, but you don't want to buy a whole dealer's den table and you only want to work for a couple hours a day, then you can use the artist alley. But when it comes to the dealer's den, I would like to see more like variety in a dealer's den. Because when I go into a dealer's den at conventions, a lot of the times I'll see some pretty similar things. I think the last time I went to FWA, something that I really liked that was very different was there was a tattoo artist set up in the back. And they had bought maybe 3 booths worth of space. And they brought their tattoo equipment and all their sterilizing equipment and all that. And you could buy a time slot to get a small tattoo, which I think is so cool. That's so different and so cool. Just incorporating different forms of art. And when you're going through and pre approving booths and artists as a con staff, to keep an eye out for more unique things. Because going with the safe items like shirts and merch and plushies, that's all well and good. But having at least a handful of really unique shops that most cons wouldn't go for because it's not the safe option, incorporate that more. I think that would be great. Now, with the idea of cons coming back possibly in 2022, with them not being able to run for the past 2 years, a lot of cons are struggling financially. And I know we were brainstorming some ideas to where they could make a little bit of extra money while still doing what they usually do. The first idea that Space and I thought of were some tiered ticket prices for things like raffles, whether it's like a fursuit or art or anything like that, even if it's just extra con merch that you could get for free.
And the idea is actually pretty simple. So it's kind of like the same concept of when you buy a ticket at a convention and a percentage of that money goes to the charity. Same thing would be applied here. So what the con would do is it would be a specific tier just for the raffle itself, and they would have a certain amount of tickets that could be sold where they could buy a high price item like, let's say, a customized fursuit or a pre-made, it could be a really high price art piece, etc. And then what could be done is you'd buy a ticket for that, and then a percentage of that ticket then goes to that particular piece or fursuit. And what happens is after over time, when all the tickets are then eventually bought, what will happen is that you'll pretty much have made the money back that you would have purchased these items at and then make profit off of it. But the cool thing is those tiered tickets would then allow your attendees to possibly win a fursuit, some art, maybe some other cool things from the con itself, things that other conventions are not offering. So this would be a really cool way to make some money, but also to do something that no one else has done before.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Another idea we came up with was auctioning off some of the thematic decor that cons would make during Dead Dog Day. And Dead Dog Day is something that I've heard, referred to as the last day of the convention at the end of the day when everybody is just tired. So what you can do as a con, if you're not repurposing your decor, things like character cutouts that are around the convention or props, anything like that, auction them off at the end of the con and take all of those proceeds to help support you the following year. All of those resources can be created, artwork, for example. A lot of cons will have volunteers make artwork for them, and then you can auction that art off at the end of the con. And because it was volunteer art, you would be making mostly profit off of it because the artwork would have been provided for little to no charge, and then creating the cutout. Hopefully, you would auction the piece off for more than it would have cost to create it. So that's another way you can make just a little bit of extra money at the end of the convention.
You could use part of the contract with your guests. Like, let's say you have some number of really well-known guests that you're featuring at your con. Those guests could then create the art for your Dead Dog Day
Mm-hmm.
auction, and then at that point you could then make that money
Yes.
back, and there you go. And it kind of just works really well. The last idea is something that actually Bean came up with, which is kind of genius because I've not ever seen it done at a con. Not to say that it's never been done, but I've never seen it done,
And that is food trucks. Okay.
which is
So a lot of
genius.
cons are usually set in cities. So there's food available, but you have to either get it delivered, which can cost a lot of money, or you have
You have to
to travel
travel
to
to
it, which can
it.
be complicated. Let's say you don't want to Uber or you don't want to walk. Like you're on your feet all day, you're tired. Have
Yeah.
some food trucks at the convention. If and I don't know the details of how to get food trucks legally parked at a hotel or if you have to talk to the hotel property, things like that. But if you figure all of that out, you can invite a handful of food trucks to serve food at your convention. And what this would do, you can contact these food trucks and say, hey, you do not have to pay us to come to this convention and sell food. Instead, give us, like, I don't know, 20%. I don't know percentages very well when it comes to what is worth and what isn't, but let's just, for example's sake, say 20% of your sales profits will come back to us, the convention.
Yeah.
So you could do that,
Of
or you
something
can
of
get
that
the food
sort.
trucks to pay to be there. Either way, you can make a little bit of money and feed your cons, like people who are coming to the convention, your staff, anybody. They'll have food readily available to them because it's right there. They don't have to Uber it, they don't have to DoorDash it, and it's right there.
Now, knowing that, there's a couple of things you can do here with food trucks. So, here in Utah, and I don't know how it's done in other states, but there are a couple of organizations that actually a lot of the food trucks work with. So, if you're a company, let's say like you work in a business park per se, and you want to have a food truck come out every day of the week, you can actually contact this company and say, hey, I'd like to schedule a couple of food trucks to come out throughout the week. You can do that. And so if you're a if you're like a convention that one maybe would like to reach out to an organization, see if there's one available in your state or in your county or in your city. See if there's something available that you can do. That's something that would be really cool. Also, maybe look into seeing if maybe you could reach out to Uber or DoorDash, or maybe see if there's a local delivery system in your city. See if you can offer a discount to your attendees for those services to make an extra buck on that, to maybe utilize that system. Use the resources that you have. There's all of these options out there. You just have to look into them. I feel like there's all these things out there, but no one really looks at them. So take advantage
Mm-hmm.
of it. There, go for it.
And then to wrap up this episode, we want to talk about how we can support our furry conventions right now. Like I said earlier, with COVID canceling a lot of conventions, a lot of cons have been scared that they won't even be able to reopen. Most conventions are nonprofit, which means they do not make any profit off of the cons that are created. They either donate all of their proceeds to a select charity, and then they take whatever is left to keep the convention going the following year. So they take money to help pay for what they need to make the convention again, and then the rest goes to a charity. But without those cons happening, there's no rollover money. If anything, it's worse because they've either had to refund people or push ticket sales to whatever year they'll be able to reopen again. So, for example, if I bought a convention ticket in 2020 and it got canceled, then they're just going to push my ticket to either 2021 or 2022. So they're not going to be making ticket sales off of people who were planning on attending during the year it was canceled, which makes them lose a lot of money.
Now, other things too that you probably don't consider. You're thinking, oh, well, it's just a con. They're going to get canceled. No big deal. Well, think of this too. Cons have a lot of expenses. They have to have lawyers. They have to have insurance. They have to have specific things in place in order to make a convention run successful. So if they're not making the money to pay off those particular things, they're kind of either A, not going to break even. B, they're going to be in the hole and they're going to owe money. Or C, they're not going to happen
Mm-hmm.
anymore. They're just going to go away. But that's not a bad thing. So if a convention just goes away and kind of just disintegrates, that leaves the option of new conventions to rise up. And that's a good thing. We need more conventions, anyways. It's never a bad thing to have more conventions. That just means more variety and more options for people to travel to. So if you want to go out there and create a convention, go for it. I'm all
Now is a
ears.
good year to
I'm always
plan.
up for it. Yeah. You got tons of time to do it.
But if you want to help the conventions that are already existing and do want to keep continuing post COVID, some one option that a lot of conventions are allowing you to do is instead of rolling over your ticket to the next year, you can donate your ticket. So let's say
Yeah.
I purchased a ticket in 2020 and it got canceled. Well, instead of saying, "Hey, I just want you to push this ticket to 2021," I would say, "Keep the money. I'll purchase my next ticket again next year." So then you're donating that money, and that helps the con continue on instead of having to take that dip from all the tickets being lost to those pushovers. Something else you can do is purchasing higher level ticket slots. So you've heard of like God tier tickets, right? Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
So there are usually different tiered tickets. I think the highest is God tier, but there are even two or three options under that. There's general admission, and then you have one or two other options that usually give you some extra, like early admission to dance
Goodies.
comps or free lunches, better hotel room options, things like that. By purchasing those more expensive ticket slots, you get some extra bonuses, but you're also helping support the con further.
You could also reach out to each convention itself on Twitter or by emailing them saying, hey, is there anything that we can do to help keep you going? Is there any way that we can help promote? You can always just ask and they'll be able to tell you. That's always a good option to
Mm-hmm.
do. But one of the things that also helps a con out as well is staffing. So rather than having to pay con staff, it's really nice to have volunteers. And as any person, I've never volunteered, but any person that I've ever talked to who has volunteered has never regretted it. They have always said it's one of the best things they've ever done because they've met so many people
Yes,
from it and they've had like the greatest experience doing it.
definitely. And you can get rewards as a volunteer as well. I know my cousin, who isn't even a furry, she's just highly interested in the fandom, volunteered as a FWA staff member during 2020 before COVID hit. And if you reach so many hours, then you get a free pass into the con for general admission. Usually, you might get a little freebie like a book or a pamphlet or something like that as well. But if you donate your time, usually you do get something in return. But it's also, even if you don't, it's a good experience and it's a good way to meet people, like Space said.
It is. So I think if anything, like especially if you're new, you're nervous or whatever, just try volunteering. Just kind of donate some of your time to it. I bet you anything you're gonna have so much
Mm-hmm.
fun, and maybe you'll do it again in the next year. It's good learning
It
experience too.
really is. I know when I'm not taking fursuit commissions anymore and I have more time in the summer, I would love to volunteer my time for my local convention. I think it would be a really great experience to have.
I would love to do it too. I've never done it. I've always wanted to, but I've never actually done it just because we always have
Mm-hmm.
plans. We always have things going on like panels and all that jazz. So um, perhaps in the future, one day I will do it. You may see Space volunteering. You may ask, why Space? Why? And I'll be like, because. And that's
Because I
it.
can, darling.
Because. But that's our show today. If you guys ever have any questions about this particular show or about anything else, you can always reach out to us at talktothemuzzle@gmail.com. I know there's some emails in there already, and I'm getting to those slowly but surely. You can always reach out to us on Twitter as well via message or just by tweeting at us. And then we're also on Telegram. And that information is always available on all of our links, as well as the information below on each
Mm-hmm.
episode. Anything
I
else?
believe that is it.
All right, folks. Well, have a wonderful weekend. See
See
you
you
next
next
time.
time.
Bye.